So the agenda tonight will be pretty quick in terms of the presentation, and then we'll break out into a group to kind of hone in on visioning for the neighborhood. We're going to go over what the Truman Plaza area plan is, what this update process is going to look like, what are existing conditions, and sort of some things that have changed since the last time we did the plan. And then we'll break out in that small group where we'll talk about our 5 big visioning statements for the neighborhood, and we'll do what we call asset mapping, where we discuss on the map what we like in the neighborhood currently and what we would like to see changed in the future. So Truman Plaza roughly is from downtown at the Paseo and Woodland, east towards what we call the Riverfront Industrial. So vaguely kind of along the river up until it breaks, and then it kind of follows the train tracks. And then on the northern end we have the Bluffs, and on the southern end we have I-70. And this encompasses several different neighborhoods: the historic Northeast, the Blue Valley neighborhoods to the south. And this plan was last updated in 2012. We try to update them every 10 to 15 years, so we're in the prime time to update this. And these area plans are large plans that are long-range visions for the neighborhoods that are inside of them. We use them to establish goals and actions that we can kind of work on later. So, you know, if a developer comes in, we can use the plan to make sure that new development is in line with the goals that the neighborhood had. We can use them to guide investment in roadways. If the public says we'd like to see roadway improvements through this, you know, area plan process, we can use that to guide that later on. The plans do not commit funding. That's an important thing. A lot of times we see these plans and people say, well, where's the money? These plans help us get that money. So if the neighborhood says we want to see improvements at McCoy Park, and we put that in this area plan, when the neighborhood goes back to apply for a PIAC, for instance, they can say, well, this improvement is already in the area plan, this has been vetted, and it kind of gives that a leg up in the PIAC process. If there are city grants or state grants or federal grants, and we feel like a project in this neighborhood could benefit from that money, we can point to a project in the plan and say it's already been vetted by the community, and that helps in the process. It does not require create new code requirements, and it doesn't change zoning ordinances, but we can use the plan to make those changes later. So if we are on a street and we say there's too much commercial in this area, or the intensity is too high, or we'd like to see more intensity, we can use that to then come back later and say, you know, the zoning code in this area needs to be updated, or maybe, you know, the overlay on Independence Avenue needs to be tweaked, or maybe we need an overlay for Truman Road, or something like that. In the way that these are proactive, they identify the projects that we want to do. Like I was saying, hey, the community wants a park project here. The community wants an intersection project. They provide a sort of program for implementation that helps guide the budget, so that we have a hierarchy of needs in the community that we sort of rank, and then when the city council and city staff get together to do the budget, they can say, these are priorities in Truman Plaza, and the council members can advocate for those because the community has already, you know, made their voices heard through this process. And when they are reactive, it's kind of, as I said, when developers come in, or if the city has a new proposal, we can kind of backwards look at that proposal compared to what the community said previously and make sure they're compatible. So we're very early in this process right now. We had an advisory committee meeting in April, and this is our first public workshop in early May. We will be doing this kind of staggered approach every month. Through July at least, we might have a 4th public meeting in August, and we'll kind of build these the themes throughout. We're going to talk about, you know, we'll get into more specifics in other meetings. This is largely a visioning meeting. In the future, we'll hone in on land use, or parks, or specific needs for neighborhoods. So we're tentatively looking at the next workshop in the early June, and then the 3rd workshop will be in mid-July. Do you want to talk about what's been done since the last plan?
Yeah, so I just want to highlight, so the last plan was adopted in 2012. There have been some things that have changed over time, which is why we are doing an update. But there also have been some things that have happened that were in the previous plan as actions to be taken, and those actions were taken. So at 9th and Van Brunt, the athletic fields were built and developed. The Hardesty Federal Complex right over here There is a developer that is in the process of remediating and developing up to 400 apartments there. And then also, we've seen the creation of some different community improvement districts. So not long after the last plan was adopted, the Independence Avenue CID was established. And then in 2018, the 12th Street Heritage CID was established. In 2012, we also did not have the land bank in the same form as we have it now. So there was a lot of discussion about trying to identify vacant and underutilized parcels, and either getting them ready for redevelopment or repurposing them for another use, such as community gardens or urban agriculture. The previous plan did track neighborhood indicators, basically trying to determine what neighborhoods were already stable versus getting to a state of stability. But in 2016, we actually created something called the market value analysis for residential neighborhoods. And that gives us even more information about measuring the overall health of the residential market and the housing stock overall in neighborhoods all across the city. So we did that first in 2016, we did it in 2020, and then we just did it again in 2024. And with doing that process about every 4 years, we're also able to measure displacement risk through a displacement risk ratio to really see across the city where we're starting to see the highest risks of residential displacement due to either the changing stock or really more specifically the changing prices of homes. And then also in 2016, the Independence Avenue zoning overlay district was adopted. So the previous plan really called for looking at rezoning, but it also looked at zoning overlay districts to create special character areas in Truman Plaza. And then in addition to Independence Plaza, as of about 2 hours ago, we do have a Prospect Corridor zoning overlay that was adopted. So we do have another zoning overlay that goes through Truman Plaza, mainly along 12th Street. And then overall, we have seen some mild development pressure in the Truman Plaza area, but compared to other parts of the Kansas City, it's been slightly below kind of the average amount of pressure that we've seen. And that's mainly due to the fact that it is a fully built out area. So there's really not a lot of undeveloped space. The open space that you see are generally parks, or they're sloped areas that might not be ideal for development. So in the last update, the population in 2010 was right under 45,000 people in Truman Plaza. The household income was $27,000 per year, and the median home price was $63,000. And then between 2005 and 2009, 50% of the occupied housing units were owner-occupied. We have seen a slight increase in population since then to just over 45,000, but it's mainly been stagnant. And then you also see that the median home value has increased to about $91,000, and household income increased by $10,000 to $37,010. That is still below the citywide average in median. So in terms of new residential permits, what you're seeing on the map are all the permits pulled for new residential housing units, basically since 2010. And as you can see, there's not really anywhere where you're seeing a lot of concentration. What you're really seeing is there has not been a lot of new residential permits applied for and pulled. And then we've seen quite a few more commercial permits. You can see a little bit of concentration along the railroad track that kind of bisects the area. But then also, especially to the west, along Independence Avenue, up in the northeast, and then down along 12th and 9th Street.
So when we're talking about, this is really for the visioning activity that we're going to do here on the map. As we're looking at the map, we want to think about how our built environment is being used and what land uses we'd like to see. So and what considerations we need to make about natural spaces. So we have some great parks, especially Blue Valley Park is one of the larger ones. Up north we have the Cliff Drive area, and what kind of things do we want to see preserved in there? What kind of employment centers do we want to see? Are those employment centers connected to where people are living? Is there enough of the parks throughout the neighborhood, and are they easy to get to, or is it difficult? And then do we want to maybe take a look at what we call form-based guidelines, which is less about the actual use of the property and more about what the property looks like and how it's designed. So instead of it being just a commercial corridor, it's part of that kind of mixed use idea where we have both commercial and residential in the same area. And this map doesn't show it, but we'll use this information to build our future land use map that we're in the process of updating right now, and that map will then inform the zoning. So if we're seeing an area that is currently too dense or is not dense enough, we'll use that to update the zoning. So maybe we'll identify an area that used to be an employment center, but now it's not an employment center, and we might then consider what our zoning needs to do to revitalize that area. There are a couple of ongoing plans right now that we are in the process of working on and kicking off that are here in the Truman Plaza area that we're hoping to kind of fold into this process as we do it. The one that's going on right now is the Bi-State Sustainability Corridor. It's a 24-mile long stretch east to west that starts on the western end, on the very far end of Kansas City, Kansas. It travels through Kansas City, Kansas, through to downtown, and then generally runs along Independence Avenue out towards Independence. And it is, we're looking, with that one, it's kind of related to transit, but it's also looking at connecting jobs and residences across both the state line and across KCK all the way to Independence. The second one, which we are just kicking off shortly, is the Independence Plaza Forgotten Homes project, and it is a hyper-focused on those two neighborhoods which are on the western side of Truman Plaza, and it's generally looking at the area that is on the north, Independence Avenue, Woodland on the west, Interstate 70 on the south, and Benton on the east. And that one is primarily looking at what can be done about housing in that area. Is it a resilient community, and are there any connections that need to be improved between those neighborhoods and the broader area? And so with that, we'll break out into our small groups.